Hello to all of my young gardeners. This is Susu, and I'm out in the vegetable garden again. It's an exciting time because the tomatoes are starting to come in and they are beginning to turn. And in my last video, I shared with you all the different names of the tomatoes. But at that time, the tomatoes didn't have tomatoes on them. So today, you're really going to be able to tell what the tomatoes look like so that you can remember their names. Here we have Brandywine, yellow Brandywine, and as you can see, they are a nice yellow color and they are really practically ready to eat. So I'm sure Papa is going to be happy about that. Now here we have red cherry. This is about an inch wide tomato, and they're good for popping in your mouth. And this was really the first tomatoes that came in, and I've been picking quite a few every day, and I have several of these red cherries, so you can see they are doing quite well. Here's another one. Now these haven't turned yet, but they are hanging heavy on the vine. Another one I wanted to share with you is Super Steak, and it is proving to be a huge tomato. I think it could cover a steak if we had one. This one isn't quite right, but you can see the shoulders are beginning to turn red, and I think when this over here turns red, it will be ready to pick. But it is quite heavy and really needs the tomato hammock. Over here we have big beef, and these are also large, and this was actually the second tomato that was ready to pick. We had one for dinner the other night. We just had a tomato sandwich for dinner. It was wonderful. So they're doing good. You can see one of the differences between this one and some of the others is it kind of comes down into a point here. You can see this one up here, it really shows it. It's not a perfectly round tomato. So that's big beef. Now, this one is Dixie Golden Giant. And according to the label, it really looks like a red tomato to me. But it's really, I think it's going to be yellow. So we're going to have 2 cultivars with yellow tomatoes. And you can see I have these in the tomato hammock as well. And they are going to be yellow. So we'll see what the flavor is on that one. Now we have a German Johnson. And German Johnson, it has a little bit of pink on it. It's just, this is the first one that's beginning to turn. And you can see it's just turning a little bit pink. So we'll see how that ends up. Now right here is Super Sweet 100, and you can see the tomatoes. This is the really smallest one that I have, and it's about a ½ inch tomato. So they're very small, very good for snacking. And the vines are just hanging with tomatoes. And here's another plant right next door that's super sweet, and you can see the tomatoes are just I'm surprised the vine can hold it. There's so many on there. Now, we've talked about patio tomatoes several times, and this is our patio tomato, and it is loaded, as you can see, with tomatoes, even though it's very short. It only comes to the top of the cages, whereas all the others are very tall. And we'll talk about that, why that is one day. There's also a tomato over here that is just about ready to pick, and it's called Cherokee Purple. Do you remember that name, Cherokee Purple? And I think this one right here is just about ready. Now it does have a spot in it. It's not rotten, it's very dry, so I don't think it'll affect too much. And we're gonna get some of that, especially with these heirloom tomatoes. They don't have all the disease resistant that some of the other ones do. And even though this one has a little bit of green on the top of the tomato, I really think it's going to be time to pick this maybe tomorrow or the next day. But that's Cherokee Purple. So I'm down here in between the two rows of the tomatoes, and you can see that they have really reached tall for the sky. Now we are getting a little bit of yellowing at the base, which I think is kind of normal, you know, for these tomatoes. I do think next year, so that we can have a little bit more sunshine down here at the bottom, I will space my tomatoes out just a little bit more, especially so I can walk through here. I think my young gardeners are the only ones that could creep through these rows. There you have it from Susu's Garden. Over and out. Love you.